Hey, welcome back to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast with your co-host, John Farquhar and Chris Harris. Today, we've got a special guest, friend of mine, Curtis Davlut from SSP Group of Companies. He's the VP over there, and he's got a couple of things he wants to share with the industry, seeing some things that are going on. So we're going to have a chin wag. So let's get into her.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Hey, Curtis, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to have you on the show here. Chris, God, you're looking fine as well. So we can keep this going.
Well, I just want to see Curtis's chin wag. That's what I want.
That'll be never a problem around here when you got old truckers. Curtis, give us a background of, who's Curtis Davlut? Where did you start? Where are you at? How'd you get here?
Okay. I've been in this industry for probably over 30 years now. And my background comes from the pool car operating side of the business. And from the pool car, I got involved with some of the small package companies. And over the years of my transitioning as my career grew, I got more involved into the trucking, direct trucking, asset related, some of the freight forwarding, some of the non-asset look to as 3PL or global solution. And so I've got a fair amount of experience in those spectrums from a trucking standpoint. But the other thing that is quite nice is I've also worked on the other side of the desk. So it gives me a complete array of objectivity as to what it's like to be a customer, what it's like to be a provider.
Cool.
And so hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. And just for the records, it's Curtis Davlut. Okay. Davlut is
sorry.
Okay. Just
cool.
For the record.
Perfect. Good. I'm glad you spurred that up.
Okay.
We would go on and say it wrong for hours and days and weeks. Probably.
Well, then everybody that would see it would be saying, well, we know Curtis Davlut. Cool.
Right? Yeah, that's right. So the company that you're currently the VP for, SSP Group of Companies, give us a little background on SSP and who they are and what they're about.
Okay. SSP, very, very small, humble company, 2016-ish, the fruition of when the first trucks started hitting the road, very small fleet with several of the gentlemen that were drivers, owner-operators, that decided to spin this into an entrepreneurial opportunity based on accumulating some customers, accumulating some relationships with these customers, where the customers would say, geez, you know what? You guys should be doing this, instead of ABC company or anything. So they got into this and we started just a very small, 9 trucks. Okay. And that was the very beginnings of it. And, kind of figuring out your way, figuring out how costs work, figuring out how much money you're spending on fuel and the drivers and all. Then we started getting or developing better relationships with some of the bigger steel companies out there. And hence they would put some demand on us as to the equipment types that they're most interested in, which is the flatbed world, which is what our core competency is within the flatbed. You name it, any type, roll tides, step decks, RGNs, whatever. Okay. We're involved in the whole, which took us to the next step where we had to start taking a look at safety and compliance, which we'll have some discussions on a little later on today. Opening up a safety compliance division, which was all new at the time. Permits, like we were used to traveling to the United States with no permits, right? Well, that changed. That world changed because of regulation. So we got into that area. We built up a small compliance and safety team at that time, which has grown exponentially since. And we've gone from 9 trucks to over 400 trucks is basically the whole story. Okay. And to today, to 2023. And this is our asset. Within that, in the makings of the pandemic, we had some discussions on opening up a 3PL division, a logistics partner, a logistics part of our business to value add to what our asset is already doing but also driving a non-asset side where we're not having to worry about absorbing costs, so on and so forth, with drivers,
Right.
et cetera, right? Utilizing a procurement team and development of relationships that we've had over the years, partners, carriers, bringing them on board and utilizing their services into our world as well.
Cool.
That area has, again, exponentially grown from 2020 to the date of inception to where we are today.
Cool.
And when I say exponentially, yeah, we've gone from a very, very small company, 6, 7 people, to we've got literally hundreds of people working. Offices in Laredo, Texas, Houston, Sacramento, California, Montreal. Naturally, our head office is here in Milton.
Cool. Perfect.
Curtis,
Awesome.
I know you wanted to tackle owner-operators. What do you see as the future of the owner-operator model?
So the future of the owner-operator side of the business is in our owner-operator, the SSP group, the value of the owner-operators, which I am certain that there's not many mainstream trucking companies that would differ with this. Probably one of our most valuable assets in the organization. The owner-operators are drive the business in many ways. Okay, we've got to be making sure that we are in tune with what they would like. We've got to be empathetic to understand that, some of these owner operators are gone for 2-3 weeks at a time and they have families just like us. And they like to get home to their families just like we do. And so therefore we work with a very strong array of dedicated owner operators out there, but we treat them like gold. We like to believe that we treat them like gold because they are very valuable. And I make that very clear. Okay. Because the recognition that a lot of the drivers get is nil. We hear about, they cut off somebody, that truck was, nobody knows what it's like to be lugging around a 53-foot trailer unless you've done it. It's not that easy to be nimble within the traffic. Okay. And the way it is today with the way the traffic is. So the owner operators are an integral part of our business and will continue to be an integral part of our business. Okay. The owner operators are the self-employed drivers. They are typically incorporated themselves. And what they do is they contract their services to ourselves. So we have owner operators that we value, as well as we have our company drivers. 2 different entities. We are all working in the one same company. Okay?
Well, I was going to say one of the huge challenges that we're seeing today is just the cost of doing business, price of fuel, price of trucks and whatnot. And that's especially got to be hurting owner operators today.
It certainly is. It's John, that's one of the parts of the balancing act that we have to take on almost daily because fuel change, people ask us, do you know what the fuel is going to be like next week? I don't know. That's all. Can't answer that. Did I know, diesel was going to drop 20 cents a liter or anything? No. It just happens when it happens. So the fuel impacts, there's many impacts to drivers. Part of being a strong employer in this type of business is we have to be cognizant of what's going on with the fuel and we have to adjust in accordance to what the market dictates. So the good old days, if we go back 20 years ago and you committed to a price of $100 a load and fuel went up by 25%, customers used to hold your feet to the fire at 20%, still wanted $100 a load.
Yeah.
They don't care what's going on with the uncontrolled expenses out there. Not their problem. Well, today it is our problem. It is everybody's problem. We know what it's like because we drive to work, take our motorcycles to work. We take our cars to work every day. We know the cost of fuel. So do the truck. So we don't feel the slightest bit embarrassed or concerned when it comes to passing those costs through because they have to. Otherwise, we can't afford to perform at the levels that our customers have expectations of us to perform. So try telling somebody that, well, the reason I'm not going to get there for the next 6 weeks is because your REIT doesn't afford me to do so. We don't have those discussions.
No.
Okay. Our discussions are pretty black and white. This week, this is the cost. This is what it's going to cost you. If we're tying into a contract with anybody or anything, we can't predict the future or anything anymore. And 95% of the industry understand.
Great. Agree.
And why that's important to us is because they also understand the urgency. We are an essential service. The supply chain is an essential service. It's up to us to make sure the pharmaceutical, that the drums are beating 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
So our job,
doors, all the good stuff. Yep.
we got to do that. Okay. And so that whole part of that component is everybody's aware of. Nobody hides anything. It's very transparent and it's industry wide. Okay. So it's not as though there's cherry picking taking place or anything along those areas, right? You know what I mean? So that's why we kind of seek it.
Exactly. Cool.
Go ahead. And John, I don't know if you want to ask about the safety department. You were saying that you've expanded your safety and compliance. What are you now doing?
In our safety and compliance side of the business, we've expanded that area again because of supply and demand. It used to be a 2-person operation. Now it's an 8-person operation. And the reasons is because there's a lot more government involvement in the infrastructures, the American cities, the Canadian cities, as well as our Mexican partner city. Okay? The compliances are all different, but you have to be compliant to what their circumstances are. So when you're moving freight, say, on a permit through 7 states throughout the United States, you are now dealing with 7 states, and 7 states have to give you authorization to run your equipment with the oversized equipment that's on your flatbeds from state to state. So you must be compliant because otherwise a ministry or a federal or somebody's going to pull you over and you're going to go through a big rigmarole, which is going to lay up that vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Time is money. These owner operators, they're on the clock, right? They're paid on getting the business delivered. And so that's why the safety and compliance department has grown, is because the regulations have changed so much in the last few years, more so than ever before. It's so important that whatever we're doing, we are compliant, we're running a safe operation, and that we're advising customers to the best practices of handling their goods, because often they don't know all the regulations that are surrounding moving a piece of equipment that's 14 feet high by 9 feet wide. They don't necessarily get all of it.
No.
Doing that every day, right?
Exactly.
Our job is to make sure that we educate, we train, we develop, and we build the relationships. And that's why our safety and compliance department has grown so much, is because we are a very one throat to choke. I like to use that term all the time. You're not having to make 15 different phone calls. Okay. Make one phone call. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. And this is why.
Good deal. How are you finding it right now in the owner operator market? Finding good, level-headed owner operators, got a good business mind, or are we starting to see a lot of new owner operators, drivers that are, still learning how to drive and jumping into the owner operator market?
Yes. So two excellent questions. Okay. The first question I'd like to address, which is the owner operators, okay, that are coming into the business, that have been in the business. It's a challenge in the sense that the repository of them are few and far between from what it used to be. Like if I were to open my door in my office here, it's not like there's a lineup of owner operators waiting to become employed. It's few and far between, just because that generation of owner operators that have been here for the last 25 years are retiring and everything. The backfill is a lot of the younger individuals are coming into this business. A lot of the terms and conditions running a truck on your own as an owner operator have changed too by government regulation. Some of the things, for instance, you can't get insurance unless you've got 2 years of experience under your belt. Well, then the owner operator, who is Mr. say 22-year-old coming into the business, says, well, I've got no experience. How am I supposed to get experience if I can't drive? You know what I'm saying? So it's that two-edged sword almost. So we're saying, well, you got to go work for a local hardware store or something, driving truck for the next 2 years, so that you put that on your application, then paves the way to make things a little bit more complex. Because otherwise, the newcomers that are coming on have premiums that are crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, to pay on their insurance, right? So we, as an employer, we take these people on, and we have to mitigate that in a sense where we take a look at the costs of operating, the value that the individual or individuals are going to, and what the longevity that we can see, which again, we don't have a crystal ball. So if you were to ask the Curtis, Betty Sue, how long do you think Betty Sue is going to be working for you as an owner? I can't answer that question. But one thing for sure, if we treat them very well, they're going to stick around. If we pay them very, they're going to stick around. These are the ingredients when we're baking a pie. We got the right ingredients, we get everything right. We don't have the right ingredients. We are relying on a lot of new blood coming into the system. We see a lot of it today. We've seen the ebbs and flows, pandemic, a much different world. Now that we're out of this pandemic, all of a sudden we're seeing that supply demand is increasing. So we are entertaining that area regularly with a full team. That's all they do.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Are you able, and for me, I'm looking at it going, flat deck. Damn, if I'm an owner operator, I could do reefer, I could do drive-in. Why in the heck would I want to do flat deck? That sounds like a lot of work because I got chaining, strapping, tarping, a lot more physical involvement often in the loads.
Yes.
Are you having a difficult time recruiting owner operators?
A difficult time recruiting owner operators doesn't matter because we also over 100 dry vans in our. Okay, so we are very, we diversified our product to cater to the marketplace and that. Is it difficult to answer that question to get owner? Yes, it's not easy. Okay, it's not an easy task to go out there. Like I can walk across the street and say, listen, I'd like to hire you. Come on over and work for us. That doesn't work. So the task at that is, and we have subject matter experts that's what they're involved in on a day-to-day basis. I don't personally get involved in the hiring of the owner operator. But one thing for sure is we treat the individuals that work for us like they're part of our family. And that is a key component. And the president of the company is all about that family tie. And I know it may sound cliche, but the old saying, walk the walk, talk the talk. And I see the walk the walk and I see the talk every single day because that is our mission. Is we want everybody to think that they're just working for us, that they're just an employee of us.
Yeah.
We want them to be part of our family. It's important because we are a tight knit. Like honestly, I could walk out here right now and go and talk to 6 or 7 of the owner operators and they'll know who I am because we take the time to do. Not everybody. I mean, there's a lot of owner operators. Buddy, if you were to ask me, put me through. I feel, but
I'm sure there's a couple of Bobs in there that'd be okay. Was that Bob 1 or Bob 2?
Exactly. How do you spell your name, Bob? Or back. What we want to do is so to answer your question, no, it's not easy. What do? We are active in the job fairs. We are active in all the types of opportunities where the repositories of drivers are at. Keep it in mind, you got 100 drivers and 200 companies. So see, this is what's happened today is it's, if you happen to be a skilled owner operator, pick wherever you want to work. Okay. The sky's the limit. And that's why the value of the owner operators and company drivers are so important to us is because we don't want turnover and our turnover is very minimal. Okay. when we've got people working for us as owner operators or company drivers, if you were to say, can you count on one hand how many people have come and gone? Because if you treat them well, you pay them well, you give them good benefits, you treat them like they're part of the family, they love it. They love it, like anybody. They want to be wanted just like all of us, right?
What makes the difference between? Well, no, let me not even go that way. Let me ask this here. What is the luring factor? So I'm going to kind of continue on with what Chris started with. What's the luring factor for an owner operator to come on to work in the flatbed division? So there's a lot more to it than just drive in and reefer by all means. But what's going to lure a guy over there? What is it you're looking for from an owner operator to do that, other than experience? But if I was new, say, maybe I'm working on your van division right now, and I'm going, geez, maybe I want to go over there and try that flatbed thing for a while or something like that. What is the lure that brings them over? Is it more money? Is it more excitement? What is it that gets those guys?
Well, the business is at the best of times is exciting for these drivers because driving is their lives. They love what they're doing. Okay, they love to be gone for 2-3 days they love to get home. But the big luring pieces, is money. Okay, the almighty dollar is if you're operating a flatbed or anything, some of the conditions you have to be certified. Okay, you can't just decide, well, I've been driving vans for the last 10 years. I want to start driving flatbed tomorrow. Doesn't work like that. Okay, you need to be tree, which that's what our safety and compliance department does. You've got to be certified, and you've got to be 100% full at what you're doing. What the lure and what the glue is that keeps these is because in the van side of the business, which is our predominant moving type of business that has been traditional throughout the years, the flatbed becomes a more specialized area. The flatbed demand is huge. Okay, from what we see, it's huge. So in the flatbed side of the world, your per mile, which it fluctuates, but your per mile rate is different than it is in a van world. Okay. That is just the standard cost of operating a flatbed because there's more physical labor and work involved with the chains, with the blocking, with the tarping. If you need tarp, moving the roll tights, any of this stuff, they're a little bit more labor intensive. So you need that skill set. Okay. The vans, you're back into a door. The tow motors are bringing the freight, loading it. You got 26 positions on the van. They load it. Boom, you're gone. You pull out, close your doors, you seal it. Lock. Not that I want to make that look like that's just simple because simple. It's not always that simple. That is
we know some people that do make it overly simple, unfortunately.
And I'd rather, I'd rather answer your questions as best as I can from what I see. I've been in these trucks. I've been in these flatbeds. Physically, I touch them. I feel them. I like to know what's going on with this stuff. So to see this, operating in the flatbed world requires a little bit more time and certification to get into that thing. So therefore, they have to pay in accordance to it. That's not to negate that the vans, like say we get into team drive or we get into different specialty, 6 drop stuff like this. Everything is based on incentives. Okay. So say you're being paid $1 a mile. Let's just use that as a figure. Well, if you're doing 6 drops, we're going to pay $1.20 a mile. If you're doing 20 drops, we're going to pay $1.50 a mile. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's all incentive so that the folks that are driving, whether it's a male or female driving these vehicles, feel that, they're getting the biggest bang for their bucks and they're incented so that they do this with pride. Okay, we don't want them to sit there and say, wow, Frank's going down the road or Betty Sue's going down the road with flatbed and they're making 25 cents a mile more than I am. That's not fair. We don't want to hear that bickering. Okay. We want everything to be standardized within and very transparent. They want to come into the flatbed world. That is the supply demand. That's how it works. A lot of the flatbed drivers don't want to take on vans. Okay. And vice versa. A lot of the vans don't want the hassle of having to do all the blocking, the chaining, and
right.
Everything. Right?
Sure. Okay. Talk a bit about, Curtis, what you're seeing in the industry, we're seeing a lot of movement towards a different driver salary compensation program. I use the word salary, hourly, and whatnot. But what are you guys seeing over at SSP? Is it something that's being considered? Have you even thought about it? Is it on the radar? Are you hearing anything from drivers? Because the per mile model is just, it's causing a lot of grief of getting drivers to do all the other things that we need them to do, right? Mm-hmm. Sitting at a dock waiting, doing your vehicle inspection and whatnot. We're seeing that this new model, which is a bit hard to get traction in and whatnot, is starting to make some waves and starting to help out, to be able to show a driver getting fully compensated for everything that they're doing and whatnot. So, is that something that's on SSP's radar right now?
John, again, a great question. Everything's on our radar screen. Part of our business is we have to be cognizant of what's going on out in the market. These, the drivers, again, as I've expressed, very, very important entities in our, they drive this business. Okay. If we've got good drivers, okay, freight is getting delivered on time, every time, all the time. Okay. If we don't have good drivers, God forbid, knowing where, you're getting who knows what's going to get delivered, time frames, all. That's why it's, these positions, these careers for a lot of the owner operators and company drivers are taken very seriously because there's a lot that is involved around here. Now, drilling down, the incentives are combined with, yes, your traditional per mile, because that is what they asked for. They said, this is what they wrote. They say, we don't need the square root of 75 and then we got to divide it 35 and that gives us you know what? I'm Mr. Owner Operator. I'm Mr. Driver. Okay. I want it nice and simple, but I want it to be very competitive. Okay. So we have to incentivize based on not just per mile, but there's auxiliary charges that layovers. Okay.
Layovers. Yep.
We arrive at ABC company, on time and they can't load us for 4 hours. Well, who's going to pay for that? All built into the costs of our proposition. And we make it very clear. We will allow up to an hour. After the first hour, you pay this. To the second hour, you pay that. And the reason we do that is because a piece of that action goes toward the owner operators. Sure. Look, cool. These guys are driving trucks. And if they got to sit for 3 hours, they're not making money like their partners are that are running straight on the highway constantly, right? So we equalize that and make sure everything is fair. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. And that's what we want to do. So, it's not just stuck on mileage. We're talking about, like you say, incentivizing different areas and whatnot. So especially when you get into flatbed, there's tarping involved. If I don't have a roll tight, say I'm doing over-dimensional load, there'll be time involved.
Yeah, there is. And there's lots for sure.
Yep. Cool. Deal.
Yeah. Awesome. And Curtis, did we touch on all the subjects that you wanted to address today? Because we got to wrap this up in just a few minutes.
Okay. The one last piece that I maybe will take 60 seconds is just to talk about the market conditions between Canada, United States, and Mexico.
Great. Yeah. What are you seeing? Yeah.
Okay. And that might be something just to just touch on that the market out there, in light of what everybody likes to hear and what everybody predicts, they predicted this was going to be the coldest and most snow winter ever. Okay. This is back in the fall. Somebody saw the ground, I jumped down the hole and they said, this is. So in our business, the markets are very strong. Okay. In the United States and Mexico. Okay. The ebb and flow of managing the fleet of trucks where they are and where they're traveling to is so critical because it's all cost related, making sure we backhauls to meet the head hauls to meet the backhauls. So this is a constant work in progress, but as a business strategy, continue to keep our sleeves rolled up and keep making sure we're in tune with every single truck, where they're going, where they're coming out. And that's what our dispatch coordinators have their eyes on the ball, okay, is to make sure that we're wasting time and money, equipment in Mexico that we can't get out of Mexico, out of the United States. We got to bring back to Canada, get to Mexico, and all this stuff. So market is strong in those areas with ourselves. That's because we hit the market hard. Okay, very strong representation throughout North America, and it works very well, and we're engaged very directly with the customers. Right? Relationship number one.
Yep.
Period. With anything, owner operators, customers, et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent. Good deal. Well, because if you don't have those people, you've got nothing.
That's for sure.
Yeah, we got nothing. We can't move the freight without customers, shippers, receivers, and most importantly, in my mind, the driver.
Back to life.
Hey, whether they're an owner operator or an employee, it doesn't matter. We don't move anything without somebody sitting behind the wheel.
You betcha. That is for sure.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Curtis, for coming on the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast. That was awesome.
I thank you.